Hello, everyone. Semi-retired Bob here, the off-grid carnivore. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. And part of those miscellaneous odds and ends moving forward this month will be my preparations for moving off-grid down to this square of land in Texas, in the West Texas desert. If you can hear me, let me know. I was up to 4, and now I'm back down to 2. Well, anyway, Rick is here. The Charger Mopar is here. And yes, Miami, the place where heat advisories happen year-round. Yes, indeed. Let me know you can hear me. And Addicted to Antlers here is here. Hello. She's going to be my neighbor across the border into New Mexico, so she'll be within a couple of 100 miles of me but when I get moved down there. And Rick says that he can hear me. Excellent. We have a few things to talk about today and a few things. Hopefully you guys will have some some topics or things you want me to talk about today. But the first order of business today is, as you will see in tomorrow's video, because I've already uploaded tomorrow's video for Saturday, but you will see that my tree service was here. They didn't take the 2 big trees out of my front yard yet. That's going to happen at a later date, but they got here. They took the widowmakers out of my tree in the backyard, and after they got that all loaded up, they went ahead and took my big brush pile from in front of the house. And you'll see in tomorrow's video, they did a really good job of getting it cleaned up. So all I've done today is sawed my way with the mower through the backyard. People have often asked me if that electric mower I have is strong enough to do the job. Well, the grass had been growing in the backyard for about a month and a half because it wasn't very long the week before the storm, so I didn't cut the backyard the week before the storm. I was due to go out and cut both the front and backyard, but then the storm happened, and it's been a month and a half since I did the backyard, and the grass was really thick, wet, and heavy, and most spots it was 16 to 20 inches long. Now, it did take a great deal of my battery to get through the backyard. I normally, one charge on my battery will get me through the front yard and the backyard, but it did take almost the entire battery to saw my way through the backyard. So, Addicted to Antlers is here. Charger Mopar says he can hear me, which is good. I have to do a lot of tree trimming here as soon as I fix my wood chipper. I understand. And Craig has arrived. Hello, Craig. How's the Sardine Man doing today? I'm glad you made it. And then we have a bunch of people saying hello to each other. Looks like they both double tapped the same message twice. But yeah, I'm very glad that I can at least get out and got my backyard cut. It was good to get that done. Unfortunately, you guys have seen where I've been working on those weeds in the back corner. It's completely overgrown, having not been done in a month and a half. So I'm going to have to get the loppers back out and clear all that back out again. And then I'm going to have to finally get the sawzall out and cut the big stumps down so I can run over that corner with a mower. Hopefully I'll get to some of that on Monday or Tuesday. I can't do it now because I won't say I'm out of energy for Friday, but I've done enough. And after this live stream is over, I'm going to eat, and then I'm going to watch Friday Night Football because it's football season, and I'm not going to do anything tomorrow except watch football. So But hopefully early next week I'll get out and start getting that cleaned up. I'm going to have to remow both the front and the back again, probably Tuesday or so of next week, because I got it all hacked down, but it's not very smooth. And now that the really thick long grass is gone, it'll dry out a little bit more back there, and then I can get back there and hopefully make it look somewhat nice. I don't care that much about yard work. My whole philosophy on yard work here in Omaha is that as long as my yard is not the worst one in the neighborhood, I'm happy. And I'm far from the worst one right now, because my big brush pile from in front of the house is gone, where most people still have their big brush pile, now that I've gotten into the back and gotten that cleaned up, because it was really getting out of hand. John is here. He's usually out getting his Friday walk-in while he listens to this. So hello out there, John. I'm glad to have you here. I'm trying to fix the steering column in my van. The bearing broke, and I'm trying to fix the clock spring. I don't really know what any of that means, because I'm not a mechanical type person, but I hope it goes well for you, Rick. And I take pride in having the worst home in the neighborhood. I'm sure that's probably not true. Maybe your yard is overgrown because you have so many fruit trees and ducks and all of the other stuff going on. But that neighborhood of yours looks old enough that I bet if you started crawling around inside your neighbors' houses, looking at their foundations and the conditions their walls are in, you're probably not the worst home in the neighborhood, Rick. John is here. Hello, Bob. Wow, live stream. Hope you are well, and hope everyone is well. I'm glad you're here, John. Thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you're here, John. My home looks like an empty lot from Google. That's funny. Bob, will your electric mower cut the mustard in Texas? I have no mustard to cut in Texas. I'm not sure, but your messages are all popping through twice there, Craig. But I'm not even planning on having a mower in Texas, because there's nothing to mow. Okay, I was working out of town for a month and playing catch up in the yard for weeks, trying to clear 4 inches of weeds around the house and add mulch and make a stone edge. Doing a lot of sweating out there. How are you today, Ellen? I'm glad you made it. Yeah, luckily for me, I did get a little sweaty out there working, because there is still a little bit of humidity, but it's not terrible. And the temperature was like 68 degrees when I went out to cut the grass this morning. It's supposed to get down to 49 degrees tonight. So this is not the arrival of fall, but it is supposed to be really cool for the next couple of days, which will make tomorrow nice, because I do still have to work out at the miniature golf course on Saturday evening, and it's supposed to get down to 49 overnight tonight and be a high of about 72, 73 degrees tomorrow. So it should be rather pleasant. It's not going to be busy because Nebraska has a 6:30 game tomorrow evening. So I'm going to basically be sitting out at the miniature golf course. I'll see a few people, but for the most part, I'm going to be sitting there watching the Ohio State game on my phone rather than seeing customers, because there won't be any. I mean, like I said, there'll be a few trickle in here and there, but it's not going to be busy tomorrow night by the time I get to work. You don't mow dirt and tumbleweeds. Exactly. We can ask Addicted to Antlers, because she lives in the desert, in the other end of the desert that I'm on. She's out there in New Mexico, but it's still basically the same desert. There's just nothing to mow. 93 degrees right now. I'm glad it's down there, Rick. looking at my long-term forecast, there's nothing even close to 90 up here for the foreseeable future. There's a few days marked that we're going to hit the low 80s, but for the most part, they're calling for low to mid 70s to very low 80s for the next week or so. So we'll see what happens. And John says, hello to Craig. Any cravings today for a sardine sandwich? And everything is bigger in Texas. MS Leanite. I recognize the name from making lots of comments on videos, but I'm glad you're here. You made it to a live stream. Now you have to go make coffee, but I'm listening. Oh, yeah. Speaking of coffee, I do still have a swallow of coffee left in my cup. Marvelous. I'm great. That's 4 foot of weeds. I only wish it was inches. Backbreaking out there, pulling limbs, rocks, and such. But think of it as a mega workout. Yeah, yard work is a good workout. Just pushing the mower through all that crap. Of course, they also did a really good job in the backyard because they picked up a bunch of the sticks that were down. There were a few that they missed, but the grass was so long, I can't really fault them for that. But I found, well, you guys, if you've seen any of my videos, you've seen the big pile of stuff I had on my back porch. That was completely cleaned off. They took all that stuff with them when they were cleaning out, and now there's 5 or 6 or 7 big sticks, and they're not that big. They're small enough that I can hack them in two with the lopper and throw them in the trash can. It should go fairly easy. I am, like I said, very, very happy that they got the backyard tree trimmed back, because there were a couple of branches that were still just kind of hanging up in the tree. They were 35, 40 feet in the air, and one of them was about 16, 18 inches around, so it would have done a lot of damage to me and the surrounding ground if I'd been out there when it went thump, which is why I didn't go out in the backyard until they got here to get that done. Yes, we're getting into the mid-50s lately. Seems like winter compared to 90 degrees. Yeah, it's always one of the things I've always noticed around Omaha. It's the same most places. In the fall, after it's been 90, 100 degrees for an extended summer, the first time the temperature drops into the 60s, people are getting jackets out because it feels cold. It's amazing how adaptable the human body is. And this is leading somewhere. But it's amazingly how quick we adapt to things. As the temperature changes. It drops down into the 60s and people get jackets out in the fall. Now in the spring, when it first warms up, I see people out running around in t-shirts and shorts when it's in the mid-50s, because that feels so much warmer than it was previously. Which is why I think, like I said, this was leading somewhere, which is why I think we see so many people having such good results with carnivore. It doesn't happen immediately, but it seems like within the first 30 to 60 days, people are beginning to see some improvement over the standard Western diet. Just a thought that I had while I was talking about the changing weather. Let's see here. That's too hot, Rick. I'm thankful it's down in the 80s and I can have the windows open, no heat. AC is perfect day. Absolutely. And Sylvie is here. Hello, Sylvie. Glad you made it to a live stream as well. Thanks for stopping by. And Craig is still having some trouble sending things 3 and 4 times, but that's okay. Bologna sandwich, John. Coffee is nasty compared to cool ice water. Well, that's entirely up to your personal choice. Remember, I'm not endorsing coffee. I never said coffee was carnivore, but to an old Army guy like me, coffee is pretty good. I drink it black. It's not like I put a bunch of other stuff in it. Have you guys seen that meme? Let me take another sip here real quick. There's a meme out there where a girl is holding some big cup of stuff from Starbucks with, caramel and whipped cream and all of that stuff on it. It's basically, a great big 50, 60, 70 grams of sugar in a cup of coffee. And she's sitting there smiling at the camera saying, "I love coffee." And there's another guy standing there, like with his glasses down, looking at her like this, saying, "No, Karen, you like dessert. That's not coffee." I find it funny anyway. Let's see here. John says it's 73 right now, but after the cold days, 73 feels like a heat wave. Patricia is here. You're a little late, but not horribly late. And I'm glad you're here. And I feel the same way about Starbucks. When I have coffee, I have it here at the house rather than spending, I don't even know what a cup of coffee at Starbucks costs these days. $6, $7, $8, $10 for one of their big specialty drinks. For less than $10, I get a whole can of coffee that makes a couple weeks worth of pots, because I have the old style drip coffee maker that makes a 12-cup pot at a time. It's called a 12-cup pot, but my big Ohio State mug, holds what they consider 2 cups at a time. And like I said, I think the last can of coffee I bought was like $8.20 some cents for the whole can, and I get a couple of weeks out of that. So I'm not spending, $5 to $10 a day on coffee. I had another comment, and this has not made it out into a video, and I probably won't put it out into a video, but I have updated my plans for when I spot my trailer on the land. I have always thought that I was going to put like what's called hardware mesh. It's basically really tight chicken wire. I'm putting a ring of that around as a skirt on my trailer so that snakes can't get underneath the trailer. But I learned something else because somebody made a comments about scorpions and black lights. And apparently scorpions do glow if you hit them with a black light, so you can find them. But I'm going to prevent them from getting into my trailer because I've done some research. And it turns out that scorpions cannot climb a smooth surface. So after I put the wire around the bottom of my trailer, I'm going to just get some plate glass and cut it to size. It'll only, it'll have to be about 12 inches tall. And I'm just going to run a ring of glass attaching it to the wire mesh. And since scorpions can't climb a smooth surface, having that ring of glass around the outside of my trailer should keep the scorpions out of my trailer. On top of, I have a video coming up here very soon where I'm resealing the bottom of the trailer, taking all of the little holes and cracks out of the wood floor and putting spray foam around the edge to seal that up as well. So the trailer should be fairly tight against pests, but having that extra barrier to make sure scorpions don't get in seems like a pretty good way to spend a few bucks on a couple plates of glass. Not to mention they're a horrible company, always best to make it home, control the ingredients. Yeah, I don't really know that much about Starbucks. It's been, oh gosh, probably 10 or 11 years. They put a Starbucks inside the grocery store that I go to. And I thought, well, what the heck? Everybody's talking about this. I'm going to try it. And I just wanted a plain cup of black coffee. Not only was it horribly expensive compared to what I can make coffee at home for, it wasn't really very good. I have always equated Starbucks coffee to, I don't know where in the world you're watching this from, but here there is a restaurant called the Cheesecake Factory. Now, I don't eat cheesecake anymore either, but back before I was carnivore, I'd go to the Cheesecake Factory with friends of mine, and the Cheesecake Factory cheesecake is a lot like Starbucks coffee in that it doesn't taste good by itself. It's like it was designed to have stuff added to it. You know, all the crap that you can get on your cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory is what makes it good. The base cheesecake by itself is not really very good. And Starbucks base coffee by itself is also not very good. That's all my opinion. I'm not making recommendations about restaurants or any of that stuff. I'm just telling you that I personally don't care for it. While we're here, I do have to put the disclaimer up there that I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. This is nothing on here is considered medical advice. And I would advise you before starting a diet or exercise program that you please contact your medical professional. Okay, that's done. That's out of the way. If you have any questions or comments that you would like to make to me directly, or that you don't feel like putting in the comments, feel free to send me an email at semiretiredbob@yahoo.com. I see people walking around with these huge plastic cups of coffee or some sweet drink from Panera. They are consuming 1,000 calories and loads of sugar in a cup. Yeah, that is part of why people are so fat, because the iced coffee drinks with, you know, the caramel, the macchiato, I don't even know what the heck all they're putting in those things, but that is part of why we are so fat. I will still say that one of the biggest contributors, and I've made a couple of videos about this. In fact, I think one of them was called The Worst Diet Advice Ever. It's been a year ago. Maybe I'll have to make that video again here coming up in the future very soon. But some of the worst advice that I think has led to, besides, yes, seed oils, processed food, drinks with thousands of calories in it, all that stuff is terrible for us. But I think the worst advice that has been out there, and it's been the advice that dietitians and people have been handing out for quite some time now, is it's better to have 6 small meals a day. And the theory behind it that turns out to be absolutely false is that eating 6 small meals a day keeps you from getting hungry and overeating. But what it does is, as we all know from listening to Dr. Westman and Dr. Barry and all of those people, especially Dr. Westman and Dr. Jason Fung, eating those 6 small meals a day, when you first get up in the morning, you eat your first meal and your insulin goes up. And then it never gets the chance to come back down, so that your insulin goes up in the morning and stays up all day. And that's why even on the worst of diets, if you're only eating once or twice a day, you're in much better shape than people that are eating so-called healthy foods 5, 6, 7 times a day, because their insulin never comes back down. Are you moving to Texas soon, or just going for winter to work on your land? I'm not moving permanently this year. I'm going down to Texas as soon as work is done here this year. Then I'm going to go down and start my projects. I plan on being down there from sometime in early October until sometime in late March, early April. I'm coming back for the next couple of years to Omaha because the miniature golf course, Dave, the owner, he's going to retire sometime in the next 3 to 5 years. And he's either going to sell the miniature golf course or he's just going to walk away from it. I've worked for him since 1990, and I figure it will take me quite at least one winter, if not two, to get the place habitable for year-round occupation. So I will 99% sure I will be back this coming summer to work at the miniature golf course and then go back down next fall. If something happens and I end up making a lot better progress than I think I will make, then I'll have to consider it. But I figure it's going to take at least 2 winters worth of work to get my shipping container to the point where it's fully insulated, the roof is up, and I've got the mini split heat pump installed to both heat and cool it. And at that point, I will reevaluate and make the decision if I'm going to come back for another season of miniature golf or if I'm going to go ahead and move and stay down there full time. I don't have any firm plans right now. I just have a general idea of what I'm going to do, but we'll see how that goes. The first thing I have to do this fall when I get down there is I have to go into Van Horn, get an address assigned to this property. Not that I ever expect to get mail delivery, but for things like Starlink, you have to give them your primary address for where you're going to be using it. And then places that deliver supplies like Home Depot or Lowe's, or even the hardware store in Van Horn, they don't typically deliver to GPS coordinates. You have to give them an address. Even if you have to include the GPS coordinates so they can find the address, you still have to be able to give them an address. So that's the first thing I have to do when I get down there, is get an address assigned to my property. I'm going to end up getting a post office box in Van Horn, and when I get that, I'll post that, because I know there are a lot of people that want to send me seeds and different things to help out with the homestead, and I'll be happy to get those, but those will be, I can't do any of that until I actually get down there. So I hope that answers your question. Probably more information than you were actually looking for. Snakes dig holes. Yes, snakes do dig holes, but my plan is to put a 4-inch trench around the trailer and put the mesh 4 inches down into the ground and then up to the bottom of the trailer. And snakes don't generally dig that much. And Sunday's video is going to be a whole talk about snake control. Very briefly, I'll go into it in more detail in Sunday's video. But the bottom line is there are rattlesnakes in the Texas desert. But you have to ask yourself, what do they eat? Primarily mice, and they like damp places, damp, shady places to lay during the day. What attracts mice? Grains, food crumbs. I'm a carnivore. I eat all of the meat on my plate, and grease, as far as I can tell, does not really attract mice. So the primary food source for mice is not going to be on my homestead, and the primary food source for snakes is not going to be on my homestead. And I'm not planning on, other than once I get the big tanks for water, when I install those, I'll have to make sure that all of my seals are very tight so there's no little drips. Because if there's no moisture for the snakes to get into, they're not going to hang out on my property. That's the very brief version. We'll talk more about that in Sunday's video. Keto Carney Cajun says, bonjour, Bob. Happy weekend. Happy weekend to you. I hope everybody is off to a great start on this Friday afternoon. John, great idea. I'm sure you've tried bologna sardine wraps. That actually doesn't sound horrible. Dump a little mustard in there. I like bologna a lot better than I like sardines. Uncle Big Guy is here. Hello, Uncle Big Guy. Glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you're having a great day down there in Kansas. It's gotten cooler up here. I think it's gotten a little cooler down there where you're at too, but we'll see. Yeah, well, eat less, move more is still part of the eat lots of little meals a day thing. But yeah, we all know eat less, move more doesn't work. It just doesn't. I heard Amazon was coming out with some type of internet service like Starlink. Don't know much about it. I know as much about internet as I do about growing sardine trees in the desert. Yes. There's lots of little internet companies popping up. The problem, of course, is getting the signal out to where there aren't any towers. Now, I'm close enough. I'm still hopeful that the T-Mobile service will work. I won't know that till I actually drive onto my property because I have a Mint network phone, which is a subcarrier of T-Mobile. And if I looking at the maps, it looks like I am within either the 5G zone or the extended 5G zone for the towers out of Van Horn. So I'm hopeful that if I pull onto my property and my phone has, 4 or 5 bars of signal, I'm going to hook up a T-Mobile home internet and be happy, and it's only going to be $50 or $60 a month instead of $120 to $150 a month, which will save me a lot of money in the long run. But I won't know that till I get there, which is why I haven't bought either system yet, which is why when I first moved down there, there may be a couple weeks of lag while I'm getting internet sorted out. We'll see what happens. See here, scorpions and snakes are free carnivore foods. They're easier to catch when you invite them into your trailer. No. Scorpions are bugs. They're part of the arachnid family. I have no desire to eat arachnids. Snakes, if I happen to catch one and kill it, I will probably try to figure out how to cook it and eat it. But the best way to keep, as most of the YouTube videos, if you watch YouTube, which we all do, if you type in pest control or snake control or scorpion control or any of that stuff, 90% of the stuff out there, they're going to try and sell you some kind of chemical to spray on the ground or spray on everything. And if you listen to the guys that have been doing this for decades. Basically, you want to look for the channels that has an old man sitting there talking to you about pest control. The best way to prevent snakes and scorpions and any other pests from invading your home or hanging out on your property is to prevent them from having a food source and prevent them from having the things they like, whether it be moisture or shade or whatever it is. Prevention is the best way, and will be trying to keep it as natural as possible. Am I going to buy a shipping container? Yes. Am I going to buy some of the pink insulation board for the outside? Yes. But other than that, most of what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to use natural building materials, which is why I'm going to be doing earth bags and that type of building. So we'll see how it goes. I may have to completely change plans when I get down there and actually look at the land and see the layout and everything else. But for now, those are my plans. When I think of scorpions, I think, hello, California, we are scorpions. You are crazy. Yes. Rattlesnakes around here are on the move. Killed a few at my daughter's house the other day, and a small bull snake came in my door when I opened it. Yep. And that's why even when I get to the point of moving into the shipping container, my primary plan right now, we'll see if it changes. Right now, I'm planning on building like an entrance wall with a door in it in the open end of the shipping container, so that when I leave for the winter, I can close those doors and lock it all up. But we'll see how it goes. If I feel confident enough with my building and welding skills, I would like to cut a door, a man-sized door in the side of the shipping container, and use that for an entrance. Because if I go that route, I can raise the door to a foot or so off the ground and then build a little set of steps up to it. And having it a raised entrance will also help keep pests out. But again, those plans are quite a ways down. Carnivore Keith says, "Hi, Bob. How late am I?" Well, you're here, so you're on time. My timer says I've been live for about 38 minutes, so you got about 20 minutes left before I bail out of here. When we had a bathroom remodel, the contractor put Kills paint that prevents mold on the hardy back and other wood. Yeah, and I'm not worried so much about mold, because where I'm at, a really humid day is 30%. It's usually much drier, and mold needs moisture to grow. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to, as I said in yesterday's video, I'm going to insulate from the outside, because I want to maximize my living space inside the shipping container. So rather than taking up 2 or 3 inches from each wall inside with insulation, I'm going to insulate it from the outside, which will give me a full 8 foot by 40 foot to build my home inside. The first year or two, probably just going to be a bed thrown over there in that corner, a dresser over there, and so on and so forth. But eventually, I'd like to build some wood frames and hang some cupboards and things like that. I'm planning on doing all of my cooking outside for now. Eventually, if I stick with my plan of building my entry door with a little wall thing in the open end of the shipping container, I will add on a little outdoor kitchen that's still underneath the roof outside the main entrance. I need a little drink here, guys. Give me just a second. But that's part of the overall plan on why I'm putting a rain roof over it, that I'm not going to put just an 8-foot by 40-foot roof over top of it. I'm planning on it being about 24 feet on the short side and about 56 feet on the long side. So I'll have lots of overhang all the way around. Not only will that give me roughly 15,000 gallons of water collection each year based on a 12-inch rainfall average per year, but it will give me lots of shaded areas to build stuff outside the shipping container. I'd like to have a little like porch area where I can sit outside and enjoy the weather when it's brutally hot out. I'll be in the shade. Also get me outside to look at the, when it's cooler out, I'll be able to sit outside rather than, I'm not moving to my Texas property to sit inside a dark shipping container all day. The shipping container is just going to be the house where I stay inside. I'm probably going to build a studio to do live streams from, but considering I have spent a couple of winters living in a 5x10 cargo trailer, an 8x40 shipping container is going to seem like a palace for space. Let's see here. Tasty reptile meat. Let's see here. Are you eventually going to have chickens? Yes. Once I get the shipping container turned into a house that I can live in year round, I'm planning on having some chickens, and I'm planning on having some goats or sheep. I haven't made that decision yet. I may actually try my hand at some rabbits, and I would eventually like some pigs as well. I don't think, until I get several years into it and see just how much water storage I can accumulate. Cows take quite a bit of water. I wouldn't mind raising a cow or two to be butchered and fill my freezer that way. I would really like that, but I need to do all of the stuff to make my desert greener before I can think about cows, because goats will eat a lot of the little shrub stuff, and I can supplement them with hay and goat feed. But to make a truly healthy cow, I will eventually need basically grass. And it's going to take a few years of working to make bowls and catchments and channeling the water where I want it to go to get enough weedy type grass to grow down there. So we'll see how that goes. Ducks eat scorpions. Yeah, and I can get just like a kid's pool to make a little thing. Once I have enough water to keep them happy, because I'm planning on a pond eventually, I would actually like to have ducks as well. But I don't know what all I'm going to have, because we'll just see. Yes, snakes love baby rabbits, by the way. Of course, if I do rabbits, they'll be in pens up off the ground. So we'll see. I mean, there are a lot of things where I have the plans, but the implementation, I haven't thought that far into the chickens and the other animals, because the first at least 2 years down there is going to be getting the shipping container in place, building the rain collection roof over top of it, filling earth bags to insulate the outside of the shipping container, putting a fence around the property. I'm still deciding on that. I will probably buy, depending on what kind of a deal I can get on multiple of the fence posts I'm going to get. I have to look here. I think I've got it saved in my contacts over here. Let's see here. What's the name of this fence stuff? Come on. I know it's in here somewhere. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not saying, I'll have to look that up again, but there's a fence company that makes the fence posts, the T-posts, out of recycled plastic. And they're very hard. And the advantage to those, while they're more expensive than a regular metal T-post, they come with the holes already drilled through them. So instead of having to add the insulators and all the brackets to a T-post, you can just run the high tensile wire right through the pole. So it ends up being a little cheaper in the long run to put, I forget the name of the fence company, but I'm probably going to buy enough fence posts to go all the way around the 10 acres of property, but I may start with fencing off like a 2 or 3 acre section that I'm planning on living on. And then as I need it, expand it out. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Do chickens eat scorpions? That's neat to know. John, I saw the scorpions on the Monsters of Rock tour in 1988. Also saw a white snake twice that year. Fortunately, Rush was not touring. Oh, whatever. Friend of mine had a scorpion in his house in Nevada. I said, no, thank you. We don't want to have those here. Yeah, and scorpions are invasive. They can get through the tiniest cracks, but as I've learned, they cannot climb. There's actually a company that they make this like 8-inch molding that goes around the outside of your house. That's basically smooth glass, and that's very effective about keeping scorpions out of your house. But I'm not hiring a company to go out and do it. I can do the same thing just with some glass panels for the little bit of space I need. And when I get the shipping container, I will probably do the same, even though it will be very well sealed. I will still probably put glass around the outside of it just to make sure the scorpions can't climb. I remember the Monsters of Rock tour, White Snake Nice. Okay. Arlene Blackwood says, hopes it all works out wonderful for you. Are you going to use 1 or 2 or 3 storage containers? The services use those a lot to live in Afghanistan. I'm just going to use 1. I had originally planned on buying a 20-foot shipping container. And then after I got that done, adding a second 20-foot shipping container, which would have had the advantage of, as I put 2 20-foot containers together side by side, I would have wider space, and it would work out to the same amount of square footage inside. But as I was shopping and looking at prices, I discovered that for about $2,500, you can get a 20-foot shipping container, but a 40-foot shipping container is not that much more expensive, because the biggest expense is getting it shipped to your property. And because there are so many more of the 40-foot shipping containers out there than the 20-foot, it would be much cheaper in the long run to just go ahead and spend the extra $500 to $800 and start with a 40-foot shipping container. So again, that should be plenty of space for one person. Like I said, I've survived a couple of summers living in a 5x10 cargo trailer, so an 8x40 living space is going to seem like a palace. $101 strings for me. I don't know what that is. Muscovy ducks are native to Texas, and I may end up starting with ducks once I have a pond or something like a pond. I could even go as cheap as like buying a couple of kiddie pool and digging down and turning those into like a little pond. So we'll see how we go. Anna is here. Hello, Anna. Great Friday afternoon, Bob. I'm thrilled listening to your plans. I'm just now starting to put details together for my 26 PT 3-part Pacific Crest Trail sectional hikes. One of the best things to come. Yeah, and I would still like to do some hiking. I still would like to do the Appalachian Trail. And I may get to that eventually. Right now, I've decided that getting my homestead up and running, once I get the house built and the roof in place and all of the other stuff, I may just put down all of the mulch and drainage and things that I need to get the land starting to grow. And while it spends a season growing, I hope to maybe go do a hike, either part of the Appalachian Trail, or because it's so close to my property, do part of the Continental Divide Trail. We'll have to see how it goes. I may just take some local hikes around my property, because I'm basically going to be camping in my little 5x10 trailer when I get to the property. I'm still kind of deciding whether I'm going to buy one of those portable garages, because my truck and my trailer are going to be so full of crap when I drive down there. I'm going to have something to put stuff in that I can put up quickly. So I'm either going to get one of those snap together portable garages from, there's a couple of different companies that make them. It's basically just a 10x20 tent, but it's got a big garage door type thing on the end of it. I'll either put one of those up and put stuff in, or I'm also considering buying like a 20x20 canvas wall tent and moving into the wall tent, because they make those with stove jacks, and I can get a little portable stove to cut up some stuff or just heat it up with charcoal or whatever. But I may decide to move into like a 20x20 canvas tent, which will already be pre-sealed, that I won't have to worry about stuff getting into it. I'll still set the trailer up with the pest prevention, but I may end up using the trailer as my storage container while I'm building and actually move into a tent. So I still have quite a few things to work out. We'll see how it goes. I wish I could tell you for sure what's going to happen, but we're not going to know for sure what's going to happen until I land in Texas and actually see the land, see what kind of deal I can make with the hardware store in town. There's, a lot of things that I just can't do till I get down there. But I have done a lot of research on all of the other stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. And to recap one of the other things that I talked about in a video a couple, 3 days ago, because I had somebody ask, why Texas? Well, there were a lot of reasons, and we only have a few minutes left, so I don't want to go deep into this. But I had originally thought of looking for land in Arizona, because that's where, if you watch YouTube, that's where all the homesteaders go to that have channels. They're in Arizona. They live off-grid. They live in the desert in Arizona. The problem is that that's gotten very popular in the last 3 to 5 years. So land prices in Arizona have been slowly creeping up. I paid less than $10,000 for my square of land in Texas, and it's 10 acres. I could have only gotten somewhere between 3 to 5 acres in Arizona for the same price. Would that have been enough land? Maybe. Would that have been enough land for my long-term goals of hoping to eventually have a cow or two? No. I need the 10 acres to keep my hope alive of eventually getting things built up to where I can have a cow. Or at least enough pigs and chickens and other small animals that I can collect the meat from them and trade with a farmer that actually has cows down there. Estimated time of Texas homestead arrival were about some